before I begin, I want to ask, who all are marketers in this room? And who all are using programmatic buying for reaching out their target audiences? One? Good. Okay. So let me begin. Mayank, I'll begin with you first. Okay. Are advertisers ready to make investments into programmatic buying?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Sai, what's your take? No, I'm saying, are advertisers ready to make investments into programmatic buying? Okay.
So I'd like to elaborate on that. I think the way you started that conversation was said it all, wherein there are marketers, there are people, but I don't see anybody raising the hands on programmatic. So I'm not saying that they are not using it, but I think there are baby steps which has been taken. Okay. So landscape is really, really, really big, right? Some way or the other, programmatic move has been done, but I think is this being justified? That's a bigger problem. Why? Because there's an intent, but have we go full-hearted? I think is missing.
Yeah. And from your experience, do you find it cost-effective?
It is definitely cost-effective, but again, I'm saying cost-effective is a large term to say. It's depend upon what objective do you caring for. Is programmatic answer for all your queries? Maybe no. Is programmatic answers to many of your queries? Yes. But at the same time, you have to understand within yourself what's your objective. And within programmatic, what type of combination you want to do. And if there are like 10 hygienes, I can assure even if you do 5 hygienes, you are definitely in a positive zone. They are definitely a positive ROI that way.
Okay. Sai, do you concur with Mayank?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Right. Satish, my question is to you. So what are the kind of advantages that programmatic buying, offers to the marketers?
Yeah. So I think just before that, responding to the earlier question as well, we do see several dozen marketers who directly work with us and many more who work with us via agency partners who are using programmatic for their next nonlinear growth journey. We call it basically the concept of full funnel marketing. And so we see that the adoption on programmatic has been directly a function of the educational or the learning curve that quite often we think that there is a gap in terms of understanding what programmatic can do and can't do for you. And wherever we've seen that gap getting bridged, we actually have seen marketers not just being open to programmatic, but then leveraging it as a fairly always-on strategy as part of their media mix, forever as part of their next growth journey. So what are the key benefits of it? I think comes down to, of course, the concept of audience buying, which is instead of targeting just websites and media, you're able to target audiences across the widest media consolidation platform that exists on the planet, and that's what programmatic stands for. You also get thereby you also get the benefit of scale, that is reach and frequency. You get pricing efficiency too, because it's the same media that if you have to go directly do some deals, you are going to get at a certain brand premium from publishers, and that's great if this is on a prominent position. But for every other ad, wherever it appears, so long as it appears in a brand safe environment, programmatic actually offers you the pricing efficiency because it's the biddable auction model. And so we see pricing efficiency as another reason too why marketers move to programmatic. A lot of it also goes back to the use cases of programmatic and when you should look at programmatic and when you should not. And I could probably talk about that if we have time. So we've been in the programmatic space for last 15 years almost, ever since I was part of the founding leadership team at Pubmatic and Comely. And we see that that evolution has happened through 3 distinct phases. The first phase was remarketing became primarily the mechanism on programmatic. This is when companies like Criteo, Vizuri became the dominant remarketing platforms. They leveraged the massive scale of inventory that was made available on programmatic. So the first use case was remarketing. The next evolution was about, can I do prospecting, acquisition, performance, and that's when marketers also faced challenges because they expected programmatic to perform probably at par with the UAC and AAA, but the attribution mechanisms themselves were not necessarily fair to programmatic. And so there were attribution challenges more than anything else. And then the next evolution saw brand marketers adopting programmatic. because it gave you access to the largest consolidation of media, display and video across YouTube, OTT, everything else that got available to you on one platform, giving you universal reach and frequency control. And that's the power of that media consolidation as opposed to doing it separately. And that was then programmatic became quite familiar with, if I had to do branding, I had to do programmatic. We actually now see the next evolution, which is, I have reached a point as a brand where I have invested in the bottom of the funnel, I'm driving performance. How do I get to my next non-linear performance scale? Because now my performance is reaching some saturation from a scalability and cost efficiency standpoint. The next level of scale I'm adding on performance is no more cost efficient. That's when marketers realize that they've got to expand that bottom funnel. And the way to expand that bottom funnel is to invest in your full funnel journey. Build your brand, drive consideration, build search lift, drive more and more customers to search for your brand, and that automatically funnels people down into your bottom funnel. Your bottom funnel expands, and that's the concept of full funnel marketing, which today programmatic is now getting adopted for. All of this, of course, evolution is happening at an Indian time scale. If you look at developed markets, markets like US, programmatic accounts for $100 billion of ad spend. 90% of display and video media buying happens on programmatic. There, programmatic is considered as a default, almost like if you were to ask a teenager what existed prior to social media, it'll be like, well, social media. There, programmatic is the default. There is nothing as if, because it's there since many years. It was $5 billion in media spend in 2015, $100 billion today, and people are talking about a connected TV as actually the next evolution. Programmatic is considered to be the default way of media buying. We are probably a few years lagging that revolution, but we believe that this is the default mechanism, and a few years down the line, we would not talk about programmatic marketing. We would say that's just given. And we would be talking about the core concepts of marketing that we really want to deliver on.
Interesting, very interesting. Sai, what has your experience been with programmatic buying? Because, like Satish told that, India is still lagging like 15, 20 years. And, when we see that in the Western Hemisphere, more than 100 millions of dollars are being spent on programmatic buying. So, what has been your experience with it?
Okay, so when it comes to programmatic, actually, we have taken the first few baby steps is what I would like to say, because I think it's just the last 12 months is when we are into programmatic. Before that, we have never been into programmatic. So the last 12 months, certainly there are some positive signals. Yeah, that's what I can say.
So are you leveraging it for branding? Are you leveraging it for performance? How are you using it?
Well, we are trying to cover both.
You're trying to cover both. Mayank, what has your experience been with it? Are you leveraging it for performance or for branding?
So I think we are doing for both, but from a Vivo ecosystem, it's more from a branding purpose. Why? Because we still work with more of a masses and a reach, and we build a frequency via programmatic. Vivo still is more of a retail channel, and I think hence we don't go with a performance funnel. But can programmatic deliver performance? Definitely yes. Why? Because, see, even if you work on a typical funnel of sales, which is the AIPL funnel, awareness, interest, purchase, and a loyalty stuff, right? Before a purchase, there has to be an interest level, right? So post-awareness, which is your reach, the interest level is done by programmatic, where you keep on bringing the frequency, use best of your creatives and relative creatives to a guy so that the purchase can happen. So it not be we were using directly as a programmatic for purchase, but definitely this is influence for purchase.
A lot of budgets are also heading towards programmatic buying on the mobile side. Okay, so are you increasingly investing more on the mobile side?
So definitely yes, but again, I think, but there is a gap in terms of what does a brand wants or what does a publisher or available in the market, right? So given that, say OTT, right, wherein it's like all about entertainment, matches, cricket, X, Y, Z. Now, if there is an India-Pakistan match, I want to go and have my maximum SOVs there. But is that available on programmatic? No. Why? Because that's a premium inventory for the say, wherein the publisher want to encash the maximum they can. But from a marketer point of view, that's something which I definitely want. But in that case, I may not go programmatic. But yes, from a, say, if as of now we invest 80% or a 90% on our mobile investments, about 30% or a 40% of all those definitely goes on programmatic.
Satish, are you seeing more investments heading on the programmatic buying side into mobile? Because you work with a lot of marketers and brands across categories.
Yeah, I think absolutely so, because mobile is where the consumption is in a huge way, especially when you look at the next hundreds of millions of users whose primary internet access device is mobile. Having said that, that's, if you look at it from a reach standpoint, clearly so. But is this how it would remain for the next few years? We think it's going to change, because when you think of it from a brand marketer standpoint, one of the reasons we believe TV is so dominant is because of the impact that it creates, the large format it offers, the lean back mode people see it in. Even on mobile, you are kind of distracted, quite often. And we believe, and this is something we are already seeing in developed markets, where formats like connected TV, digital out of homes are where marketeers are investing. Even in India today, almost every marketer we work with, CTV is increasingly becoming the default line item in that overall programmatic plan. DOH not yet, but it's getting there. There are POCs, or proof of concepts, that are going on in the DOH space. So purely as a share of value or share of media spends, that is going to shift. Today, of course, mobile is probably seeing about 90% of the spends going to mobile and all other formats not really being there, but we see that shift. It'll happen over the next few years. In CTV itself, connected TV, the new TVs are by design CTVs. India today has about 35 to 40 million CTV reach in terms of households. That's about 150 to 160 million uniques. And as the new TVs are CTVs, this reach is going to keep going up. It also offers you an ability to build more frequencies. And so the overall brand impact that it creates is just incomparable with respect to mobile. So while mobile can create frequencies and more down funnel straight call to actions, the media mix is going to get more and more optimized. And of course, you're also going to have more integrated plays, such as you saw the ad on CTV, you scanned that QR code, you took the action on mobile, and you're completing the loop by tracking that user on conversion. So I think that all of that is actually getting played out.
Interesting. Sai, as you mentioned that, your programmatic buying journey has kind of started an year ago, 12 to 14 months. What actually prompted this journey? Why did you, latched upon this side?
Okay, so we're essentially digital first.
Yeah.
Okay, so even before I probably answer that question, probably I'll have to go back to the category. We are into a category, we are into gifting, right? So the category is essentially driven by need.
Correct.
Okay, so the need is like, mostly somebody's birthday has to be there, or anniversary or something. There has to be a trigger why I'm sending this gift, right? So while we are into this category, which is driven by need, unfortunately, our customers are last-minute shoppers. They know that there is somebody's birthday, there is somebody's anniversary, but still they don't shop in time. Okay, most of the times, I'm talking about two different kinds of people. They know that there is an occasion, but then they did not place an order, and then in the last 1 or 2 days, they realize that, the occasion has come, I have to place an order. Okay, and there is this second set of customers, the latest millennials and zillennials, who just realize it probably because of some notification on, let's say, social media, right? So, or probably a message on the group, WhatsApp group. Inka birthday hai, chalo, I'll have to send a gift, right? So, the immediate response is, I need a gifting website. Okay, so there are two routes, right? I know FNP, okay, chalo, because we are digital first, I log on to the website and place an order, done. That's one way. Second way, thing is, I have to send a gift. I don't know who to send the gift to. And because this is last minute, our experience has been that people are on Google. Because it is Google and the intent is high, we catch those audience and then we are able to close the loop within 24 hours. Done. Our transaction is done. So we have been focusing only on Google for many years. Many years. You can, it is double-digit number of years, right? And lately, what's happening is, it is coming to a, plateau. So it's it's not growing, either because probably people are very clear which website they have to go to, or things like that. So now we had to actually go beyond Google. That's when we set for that. For this journey, yeah.
Interesting. Mayank, does this audience buying approach, does this audience buying approach requires marketers to be ready with the first party data strategy? Because, programmatic is all about, reaching the right audience, setting the filters right, and, connecting with the right audiences. And as we go forward in the digital ecosystem, first party data is becoming big. Okay. So how are two interlinked?
So I tell you what, no doubt about it that if we is a first party data king, yes. Is the audience king? Yes. So honestly speaking, if you are evolved enough that you have superb of your first party data, you are managing it well, you are cohorting it well, I think awesome. You are like at a next level as of now, right? But the people or the marketers who have still not get into a first party data, please start. Following it in terms of how the essence come is, on a programmatic level, there are lots and lots of cohorts available. There is I'll say a hygiene of data or a quality of data which comes over. Then comes the creative, right? But there is enormous data available. But which data to be applied to when, which is when, what to be targeted, what to be communicated is more important. Even if you have a first party data or a programmatic data, if it is not top up with the right creative at right time, doesn't make sense. Hence, I think it's go hand in hand for sure. But again, I'd say Satish say because it comes with the economy of scale, I may say at a stage one first value, it might be sound costlier. Why? Because it be a comparison to it. But when you efficiently use it, use all three from a cohort to a inventory to a creative. It will definitely a very, very high ROI on stuff. And that's why audience and first party data comes very, very important. See, if his Mayank could be there, right? He's maybe a customer for X company, maybe a customer for Y company, right? And these companies are in competition with each other. If X makes me a right communication at right point, then only I am more inclined towards buying X and compared to Y. But at the same time, is Y doesn't make me a cohort of mine and do me XYZ communication doesn't help me. So that's how it helps you conversions also.
Satish, can you elaborate on the breakup of current buying approach, audience buying approach?
Yeah, yeah. So I think, and just before that, I want to add one line to complete my earlier point about full funnel marketing. There are examples and examples of brands that we worked with, whereas they adopted programmatic buying purely because it's the most efficient mechanism to run full funnel marketing. And when they did that, a sustained investment in programmatic increased their consideration baselines or top of the mind brand recall. In one example, when it increased it from 25% top of the mind brand recall to 50%, as measured by offline studies as well, their conversion rates down funnel improved by 5x.
Okay.
And that is branding driving performance. That's what we call as brand performance continuum or performance branding. And that's really where programmatic buying is now headed. Now coming back to audience buying, I think there are 4 or 5 key mechanisms in which audience buying is getting executed. One is on, in terms of deals and open auction. So one is all the inventory on programmatic available on open auction. You're able to do audience buying based on third-party data, which is a whole ecosystem of third-party data exchanges and data aggregators, which data you can layer. But I think that ecosystem relatively in India is still under development. It's not as developed as it is in developed markets, so to say, although players like Lotame and a few more are playing an important role to aggregate that third-party data. The other one is what we call as second-party data, which is the data that comes from the DSPs themselves, the demand-side platforms. Google, for example, makes its data available on the programmatic inventory. The third one is your first-party data, which is marketers' own data that they can use for driving remarketing as well as lookalike targeting. And remarketing could be for funnel drop-offs as well as for driving repeats. That's as far as open auction is concerned. Then there are deals that are specifically being done with media layered on top of, data layered on top of media. We wish there was more of that happening, which is private marketplaces, but that's not happening as much. It's taking the third form, which is PG deals or programmatic guaranteed deals, where you do not get to layer your own data on top, but you can use data coming from specialized data providers who are selling it as a combination of data and media package. For example, I think maybe a Truecaller could be an example of that, where you want to target Truecaller along with specific data cuts. You could do that, but you can't layer your own data on top, and I think Truecaller perhaps will open up to that as well with a more, I mean, Truecaller actually is open to that already in open auction, but I mean in terms of more specialized cuts that you want, where you want to take Truecaller data but run it elsewhere on some other media. But I think Truecaller that way is one of the most open publishers on programmatic. So open auction, programmatic preferred deals, programmatic guaranteed deals. Then there is the fourth one, which is audience-specific DSPs or audience-centric DSPs. This is where the Flipkart DSP comes in, or the Amazon DSP comes in, where these DSPs' specialization is that you are able to target leveraging Flipkart data, transacting consumer data. Of course, at a segment level, not completely PII safe, and Amazon DSPs of the world. And the last one is some of the data-rich publishers self-enabling themselves to sell their audiences with third-party media, which is called as audience network. One of the prominent examples of audience network is Facebook audience network. But the same thing can be done by a commerce media network or a travel media network. For example, Marriott in US is running Marriott Media Network, where you are able to target Marriott customers on third-party inventory on programmatic. And so retail media, commerce media is becoming the next big opportunities in those markets, and that will happen here as well. Like one of the OTAs could actually spawn their travel audience network as well, and that's another way one can get access to audience buying. So these are broadly the 5 mechanisms. There is also the 6th mechanism, which is a data-rich publisher simply selling its data as a pure data that you can then layer on any other inventory, which is where, again, the Lotomies and DMPs come in. So I think there is an ecosystem in programmatic where there are various mechanisms in which you can target audiences. But I think as India goes through that development and that adoption curve, we'll see all of these possibilities playing out over the next few years. Today, though, one of the most dominant one is first-party and second-party targeting. And I think there we have to give credit to Google that Google's entire inventory is amenable to running first-party data as well as second-party data. But I think, and then there are the traders of the world that are taking it further beyond, where they are, you are able to layer even third-party data on inventories beyond. Like for example, YouTube doesn't support third-party audience targeting, but OTTs could support that. But I think OTTs haven't fully bought into that story either. So I think it's still something in the works. But short answer, first-party audience targeting is absolutely happening already. And that's where remarketing, lookalike targeting is taking place. Most savvy marketeers or marketers that are going through that educational learning curve, I think are already adopting that. Third-party audience targeting is still in its early days. But there are these other mechanisms that are opening up, such as Flipkart DSP, or some of the travel players we are talking to are talking to us to enable their own travel audience networks powered by programmatic technology in the backend.
Interesting. Sai, so what are the key measurement metrics, that you set when you go for programmatic buying to evaluate the success of it?
At the end of the day, I'll probably take a step back and probably talk about, let's say, one objective, and there is an objective, and there is an objective for each and every campaign, right? So, firstly, I'll also talk about the first-party data and all that we are talking about. What we did is actually we built a customer data platform. Okay, what we are doing is we are capturing all the PIA, of course, the email and mobile number anywhere are there. Beyond that, what we are actually capturing is all the browsing behavior on the website. Then we're also capturing whatever is the purchase behavior, that what are they buying, when are they buying and all. And then it's not just on the digital platforms. Of course, we are still, the next step that we are actually trying to do is, how are they interacting with our offline channels? Because we have 400 stores across India, we're also trying to get that information on the customer data platform to get this customer unified view of this customer. Okay, so because programmatic in silos, I don't think it will work. At the end of the day, you have to have a proper, robust infrastructure to be able to deliver the objectives that you want, right? So to be able to have that, especially, of course, the time is still not there, the cookieless world and all that we are talking about. If not now, going forward, we also have to be ready, right? So as of now, what we do is, so even if let's say we are doing a branding campaign, let's say on digital channel. Somebody has interacted with my ad. What did he do once he is there on the website? Did he leave his email address or not? If he did not, a lot of times, except remarketing, you will not be able to do much of anything. But then, if somebody is able to leave a mark of their PII, it's easy for us to stitch their previous sessions and all, right, and then be able to build this unified customer views. Okay, so and then we're able to say what is each customer doing whenever whatever is the campaign that we are doing. For example, let's say customer did not transact, it's okay, but then what did he do on the website when he came? So based on that, again, the next campaign will, basically there is this data-driven approach that we follow, and then again, based on his previous behavior, the future campaigns will follow up to be able to close the loop of closing the objective of the overall activity. That's so that way we have. I don't say that we are able to solve that completely, but this is how we are actually trying to put what do you call method to madness. Because fortunate or unfortunate, we have n number of options, and when we talk about like the way that he is talking about programmatic, that there are n number of options, right? So sometimes we get lost, but then it's madness, right? What we are trying to do is, boss, okay, boss, I think whatever you are doing, at least stitch that information and be able to say what are these cohorts doing on the website or app, what are they doing, and then do that, what you call full funnel marketing and all that, right? I think we try to do that. That's how we are having metrics defined for each and every campaign, each and every step and all.
Mayank, do you concur with Sai's thoughts on the way he has defined the metrics?
See, absolutely. That's why I'm saying different marketer is at a different stage and a different objective.
True.
And I think that's the best part of it. If you are very clear on your objective, that's the best way you can evaluate should I you going programmatic or not, part one. Even if you're going programmatic, then to at what level. If you are able to understand and answer these questions, I think you are bang on there. But first you have to understand at your level, okay? See, that's what I'm saying. That's what he rightly said. See, what is programmatic? Even your first party data remarketing is also a programmatic.
True.
And that's the lowest funnel available with you. If you are able to do that cohorting on your own website, on your own market channel to the best, I think you have learned your lesson. Now it's all about going outside and asking for such lookalike cohorts because you know that's works for you. So that means you are game here. Simple.
Correct. So, Satish, what are some of the challenges, that are associated with programmatic buying? Because a couple of years ago, I remember reading in news that, a lot of ads were running, across content, that should not have been there. So, there are examples about, bots, there are examples about, brand safety, which have been there associated with programmatic buying. So how are you solving those challenges for marketers?
Yeah, even before Satish talks about it, are we talking about the challenges in the ecosystem or questions or confusions of the marketer? There are too many options. Day in, day out, something or the other keeps coming. How do you get confused? Boss, what to do? Right? So I'm not very sure what you are talking about. If you can throw more light on all of them, nothing like that.
Yeah, no, I think bang on, absolutely. I think I'll come to the challenges that you are talking about, but I think what Sai mentions, I think is bang on. Because before I come to the specific challenges such as fraud or brand safety that you spoke about, I think we see somewhere the biggest challenge is the facts versus the myths of programmatic buying itself. What is the right stage when I should invest in programmatic and what I should expect out of it? The whole gap in terms of understanding and perception that still exists in the market in India. And we do believe, and we are very optimistic that it's a matter of time, because we've seen some kind of a hockey curve growth in adoption of programmatic over the last 3 years, more than ever. Because we've been operating as a programmatic first company since 2013, and it seems like what the hell we were doing? It was like years in the wilderness because there were hardly any adoption of programmatic in the market, right until 2019. And it's literally in the last 3 years where we've seen the hockey curve, and yet it seems like still a huge part of the market is untouched or is not necessarily aware or tried programmatic marketing, without seeing success because somewhere they just were not sure or they were just misguided by somebody else as well. The other challenge that we see is the measurement challenge, which is how do I attribute success of what I did to my end results. Because quite often the marketeers that get onto programmatic have somewhere got there with their performance first approach in the beginning, where everything is measured in the last touch model, last touch attribution, last click and so on. And when you look at this full funnel concept and you're bringing in that last click based model, it just doesn't work. Because the whole concept of full funnel marketing is about, is it driving brand lift at the top of my funnel? Is it driving search lift, which is more and more people searching for my brand, wherever that might be, on AS, on App Store, or Google, or YouTube, or elsewhere? And at the bottom of the funnel, is it driving true incrementality as opposed to just some last touch-based credit, which could just be stolen from one platform to another, which can almost get into attribution fraud, by the way, and that's nothing unique there on programmatic. That can happen across affiliate space or even on any other platform too. So I think the biggest challenge that we see today for an evolved marketer is the measurement challenge, or when I should invest in programmatic, what I should expect out of it. And that measurement challenge is about moving from the traditional attribution channels, traditional attribution models, to incrementality, media mix modeling, multi-touch attribution and stuff like that, which is where people are actually investing their attention. But the other challenges that programmatic is associated with is actually something that any large, high diversity media has been associated with ever since. Perhaps the ad networks were the first ones where this problem got associated with, quite rightfully so, because ad networks fundamentally were operating blindly. Programmatic, thankfully, is the most open ecosystem that exists, because it's actually the aggregation of third-party inventory that supports third-party tech, third-party creative, third-party audiences, which means it's actually the most open ecosystem. So you have the siloed platforms that we all know of, the black boxes. Then you have the ad networks, which fundamentally are blind. And then you have programmatic, which is actually supposedly the most transparent, if only you've been given transparency, which you as a marketer are supposed to demand and should get access to, but quite often don't get access to. But otherwise, it's geared for that integration of every other tool and tech that you actually should be using for tackling fraud and brand safety. But some of these problems today are solved to a fair extent, but the perceptions remain. For example, players like Double Verify, Integral Ad Science, Moat, White Ops, Fraud Logics have taken on the problem of brand safety, domain spoofing. Domain spoofing basically meant that the ad ran elsewhere and showed up as youtube.com or showed up at hbr.org. These are 9-year-old problems. They got solved 7 years back. But some, people still think that those problems exist today because maybe you're dealing with a very third-rate programmatic platform which is not solving it. But if you're talking to some of the best programmatic platforms, they've solved those problems. And yet, fraud is not entirely solved because the fraudsters keep innovating new techniques. And so you can only detect fraud. It's very hard to prevent fraud. But there are tools and tech that's available today to detect that fraud relatively early. And I think companies like Google and many other independent platforms have done a lot of effort there, and yet it's not a fully solved problem. Brand safety, I think, has been solved to a far greater extent today than where it was a few years back. But frankly, that problem exists on any media. You take any live stream media, even if it's one of the most branded publishers, you will have that challenge, perhaps even today. Or even a few years back, that challenge existed. Having said that, one of the interesting challenges that I think we see today are attribution frauds, which is where you are actually dealing with tons of networks or affiliate networks or maybe platforms that are spurious, and you suddenly see that, wow, this platform is working well for me because it's driving all my last touch credit. And then someday you realize that you stopped that platform and your conversions hardly dropped because they were just stealing attribution. Airbnb in 2021, June, July, actually stopped all their affiliate networks and their supposedly performance networks. And they saw 95% traffic coming back. And so there was hardly any impact of actually stopping all that spend because all of that was attribution fraud. Since then, they realized they should invest in the full funnel journey, and that's how they're driving their next level of growth.
Great, great. Thank you, Satish. And since our time's is up, so I cannot continue the discussion, but I'll still keep the floor open for the audiences. Anyone? I think gentleman there has a question. Can you give him a mic, please? Yeah, here it is.
Hi, good evening. My name is Siddharth, and I represent a company called Moloko. We're a machine learning company and one of the largest DSPs in the world. We've just started India. My question is to Satish. I think you mentioned something profound that, about 9, 10 years back, there was almost no programmatic, and now there is a hockey stick, which is actually happening. Why do you think that's happening? What is triggering it, and why is India still far behind globally when it comes to programmatic? You mentioned some of the challenges which can be tackled, but I think we are at that very interesting stage where from here we can come closer to the global average. What do you think could drive that? Thank you.
Can you just complete your last line? I mean, you said compared to the global average, then I couldn't hear your
We're
last.
significantly far behind globally when it comes to programmatic. So what has triggered that hockey stick, and what could further actually take us closer to global benchmarks?
Yeah. I think our own hypothesis is what it triggered, of course, partly was several years of, education that at some point reached a tipping point, number one. And I think a lot of the players in the ecosystem did some good job. And by 2019, more and more marketeers at least had looked at programmatic as a line item in their plan, whereas programmatic is the plan today. Right? Today, programmatic is not a line item in your plan. Okay? But I think by then they had tested some early trials and pilots, number one. Number two, I think digital became mainstream in India over the last 3 years in a big way, the geo moment, the pandemic itself, and we believe that it's really adoption of digital for branding and the rise of OTTs and everything becoming mainstream then meant that the most efficient mechanism to drive media consolidation and create that one unified view of the customer that Sai was referring to. Marketers realize that if I have to do it on digital, then now programmatic is the mechanism to do it. So I think it's more the digital going through the roof around that time frame where programmatic then became the natural choice. Having said that, we believe that there is still a long way to go, primarily because we think more and more marketers still haven't tested it, or the ones who tested and the ones where they did not like the taste probably have taken a back seat. But I think there is some more nudge that needs to happen, more case studies, that should come out. I think that will drive that next level of growth. That's also why we are here as part of that journey, so to say. Somewhat kind of surprised and disappointed that very few people have tried it in this hall, but we don't necessarily see it as a sample though everywhere else. But we believe that's broadly maybe this is the sample. And so there is still a lot that needs to be done. But we think that that tipping point has definitely come. We see marketeers where they are now talking about 100% programmatic. These are obviously some of the most evolved marketers in the country. But what we see, and this is not only limited, but when the digital marketer, and I'm only talking about digital marketers, or rather, I'm talking about digital media spend, we are seeing that marketeers who are touching about 1.5 to 2 crore a month in their digital media budgets, if they are not trying programmatic, then they are missing something fundamentally in their overall strategy. That does not mean that you need to have 1.5 to 2 CR to try programmatic, but what we are saying is, at that scale, you've got to start looking beyond your pure performance-focused approach. And so we are actually reaching out to all such marketeers directly or via agency partners to make sure that at least they are the ones who are testing programmatic, but as a part of their full funnel journey. We are not trying to sell programmatic. We are trying to sell the concept of full funnel marketing. And then it just happens to be that programmatic is a means to do that, is the best means to do that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Satish. Thank you, Sai. Thank you, Mayank. It's really great insights on programmatic and, how we can go ahead and succeed and reach, the kind of spends that we are seeing in the Western Hemisphere. Plus, it's very interesting how you explained the buying mechanisms, which are there available for the marketers. Thank you very much, all of you, for your insights.